investment for over 40 years, and Paul Worachek, who has over 3 decades of experience in lending and credit industry and recently joined Time Investments team as the Chief Credit Officer. Mike and Paul are both here with us today to share their expertise on how dealers get more applications approved. So thank you so much for joining with us today. And Paul, I know you have been in the lending industry through several economic cycles. So I'm really curious to hear about how the current economy is affecting credit. Can we start there and have you talk about that for a little bit?
Sure. Good afternoon, Josh. Thank you, Mike and Josh, for being part of this. Yeah, it's hard to believe I've been part of the lending and credit industry for 3 decades already. Time sure goes by quickly, and you learn something new every day. Just briefly on my background, I've had the pleasure to work both with credit unions as well as the consumer finance industry. So I have a background in both prime, near prime, and subprime lending as well. And also working both on the sales and retail side as well as operations has really helped with my transition to TIC. So it's really good to be here. Getting into the economy a little bit, just as I joined TIC, we saw some additional interest rate hikes and also inflation in a number of areas as well. You know, everything that we buy, everything that we purchase, we're seeing an increase in pricing. So obviously it's been a challenge across the US and really all over the world. And it's really impacting our dealers. It's impacting our current customers as well as our potential customers. So costs continue to increase. You know, we're seeing an increase in interest rates. We just saw an increase yesterday of 50 basis points from the Fed. So it really is impacting our customers and our customers' lives. Just a couple of things around the inflation, a couple of stats. Since the beginning of the year, the average American family is spending an additional $433 per month due to inflation. You know, along with that, we're seeing record credit card debt. As of last month in November, there was $930 billion in credit card debt in the U.S. You know, when you think about that, it's just an enormous number. And those increases, it's up about 15% from earlier this year. So it's up significantly, and that's the largest increase in the past 20 years. Average price of goods is up about 8% year over year. So we are seeing those impacting our customers. So, you know, how does that impact credit? You know, how does it impact our customers? With the increase in credit card debt, it's impacting, you know, our Americans' budgets, and it's causing it can, in some cases, cause a decrease in a customer's credit score, which, you know, ultimately impacts the ability to get credit. So with the rising interest rate, the cost of credit increasing, you know, we saw an increase in the average rate on mortgages. The average mortgage rate, average rate for a consumer loan is up 300 basis points in 2022. So it does affect our customers, and ultimately will affect loan delinquency as well as potential losses for us and for other lenders. So we're in an interesting time, but not a whole lot different than other business cycles, but it is a different time in our economy.
And I'd love to dive into some of the finer details on what the day-to-day looks like in terms of the approval process and how the economy is affecting that. You mentioned a few things such as people dealing with just a different stance of credit, people have more debt. How is that affecting the approval process among other variables?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, you know, we're seeing higher debt loads, and we are seeing some lower credit scores. So this negatively impacts our auto decisions as well as our normal underwriting practices. So here at TIC, we're always looking for ways to help customers, whether they're getting home improvements, water treatment, other goods and services. We really try to take a common sense approach to lending and underwriting. So, you know, we're looking ways to approve a customer for a loan while really ensuring the customer can afford the payment and have enough disposable income to pay for all of their monthly bills. So, you know, we want this to be a good experience for the customer. So other things that we can do on a daily basis that affects approval is really, it starts with the information we get from our dealers. We see errors on credit applications, which can include, you know, a wrong social security number, for example, or an incorrect address, you know, not all income information, you know, those are just to name a few. But the real vital thing, you know, for our dealers is to get that complete and accurate credit application. not getting all this information really slows down the process and can make a decision, take more time. And really, we're all about making quality decisions and making timely decisions. So one of the common things we see almost daily are Social Security errors. And what that does, it doesn't allow us to pull a credit bureau, and it doesn't allow us to auto decision many of our deals. So ensuring that the dealers get that information, get it input accurately from the customer, will really make a difference in how it affects the approvals.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and more due diligence, just understanding your customers better and understanding the foundations of their businesses, and I think all the variables matter at this point, and I think making sure that they're all paid attention to, from what it sounds like.
Yeah. I think to just add on to that is that, over the last probably 10 years, with interest rates being, historically low, wage growth has been there. So people had more disposable income. Even the lending institutions became, less detail oriented because, people were paying pretty consistently and actually pretty rapidly. We've just entered in a whole new realm. It's a whole new economy, and things have really changed. And that's why we have to get back to details. And I kind of get it because I've been on both sides. I've been on the sales side as reference to the finance side, and I get it. You want to close a sale, and everybody hates paperwork. Everybody hates the applications and so forth. It's a pain. The best thing in the world is when a customer presents a check and you're done. You're out of there. But you have to get the details down in reference to that credit application, because that can make a big difference in the approval process and the speed of that. So there has to be more, I guess, focus on making sure that application is filled out correctly and double checking as quickly or as much as possible to make sure it's submitted so something can be decided on fairly rapidly.
Yeah, I think when things are automated to a great extent, those things get overlooked of like, hey, this wasn't filled out, or that wasn't filled out, or this was filled out incorrectly, and just having a more personal touch to the process.
Correct.
And Paul, one of the things that I'd love to continue on is this idea of what information, when you look at like an owner or a sales rep would gather from these potential customers to give them the best opportunity for approval. And Mike, you also touched upon this a little bit, so would love to hear from both of you.
Sure. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, accurate information is really just the start, and that will not only help with our underwriting decision, but also improve the time, it does take to get an approval. So, our concierge team enjoys talking with our dealers, and that's their role. However, if we get good data on the application, it improves everyone's experience in the credit underwriting process. So one critical item I'd like to focus on is getting all of the income information for the borrower or borrowers on the application, whoever is signing on the loan. So, for example, if someone is retired and has multiple sources of income, it is best to include all of these income sources, not just their Social Security, for example. If there's a spouse or a significant other in the household, it can be really beneficial to get both parties on the application, especially, if they have joint debts or joint credit. It isn't required to get a second signer or a borrower, but the more information and accurate information we get, obviously the better and more timely decision can be made. Sometimes applicants and borrowers are a little reluctant, to give all their information. They maybe don't want to tell all the income that they make or something like that. So at times the dealers have to ask, a little more probing questions to get all that income information. Income directly impacts, the customer's DTI and PTI, debt to income and payment to income. And those are ratios need to be in line in order for us to make a positive lending decision. So whoever is going to be part of the loan needs to be included in the application and ensure that we have all of the income information. So that'll give us and the customer the biggest opportunity for an approval.
Paul, maybe you want to kind of explain what's the difference. I mean, what does DTI or debt to income and payment to income, what is the difference between the two? and why
Sure.
is it important to have those
Yeah,
measurements in place?
absolutely. Yeah, it's an excellent guideline. Not just for TIC, but for time, but for everybody. A DTI, debt to income, is the ratio between total debt payments and a customer's monthly income. So it provides a guideline on whether the application has the ability to make the loan payment or is over obligated. So it's really important so we don't put someone in a poor position. PTI, payment to income, is a ratio between your monthly income and the payment of the loan being requested. So PTI is really commonly used in the mortgage industry, the auto loan industry, as well as indirect lending, which TIC is part of. We're really want to be sure that we don't give a customer a payment more than they can afford and set them up to fail. That's not our goal here at all. We want them to succeed and win and really enjoy the home improvement or water or other services that they're getting. Another guideline is disposable income. We do look at that very close. We look at their total income, but we also look at disposable income to make sure that all monthly debt payments can be made. It helps, to ensure that they can pay their other bills, whether it's, food, cell phone, utilities, internet, whatever other expenses that they have. So really, Mike, to answer your question, all these ratios really help in making an auto decision or a manual underwriting decision, which is why, again, getting accurate information on the application, getting all that income is really vital to the success of making a good decision.
Yeah, I know, Josh. I was talking to Paul about this, and this is an ongoing conversation in our office because I want to make it clear that Time Investment Company is in the business of buying contracts. We are proactive. We want to look at every single angle. We understand. It's one thing that I think that differentiates us from our competitors. We understand how a home improvement company operates. We know what the sales presentation is. We understand what they go through. So our goal is trying to figure out how we buy those contracts, because obviously we want the salesperson to get their commissions. We want the company to succeed by the cash flow that is coming from us. But we need to be partners and we need to be working together, because it's really frustrating when I see a high credit score that has a debt to income of 100%. And you're looking at it and saying there's no way that debt to income should be 100%. They got an 810 credit score. They have to have more income. So that's what we're asking is, unfortunately, from a regulatory basis, we are limited on what we can buy from a debt to income ratio, basically at the 60% level. So there's got to be some income there. We have to get everybody on board to get as much income as possible within that household, so that we can actually tell the true story, that debt income is not 100%. It's actually probably more like 30% or 40%. But we don't know that because all we're seeing is the income is put in on the application. We know it's more. I mean, in most cases it is. So that's what we need to help. We need everybody's help to make sure they get as much income on those applications as possible.
Yeah. And just to summarize that, whoever's on that application, we want to get all of their information. So, income, job time, all of that will help make that decision that much easier.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it just takes patience working with people to make sure you get all that information, and being able to build that relationship as you're trying to ensure that they provide that information to you. It takes a lot of work. And I know Time Investment has an online paperless system for dealers to enter applications. What are the benefits of going through an online system like this? Does this really help streamline everything?
Yeah, absolutely. Our online system is how our dealers submit applications to Time. It's available 24/7. So any time of the day, any day of the week, they can submit an application. It will go through our auto decision model 24 hours a day. And there's some additional tools that are part of our online system as well that really helps make the lending process, I would call it, seamless. Not only can they get a timely decision, it also allows them to see, the decision result and any stipulations, things that are needed in order to get the loan closed and funded. So it could be like a proof of income or something else. The dealer can also upload stipulated documents and also make changes to the credit application if necessary. Maybe the cost of the sale went up or it went down, or there was something else that changed. Another big part of this, it allows the dealer to electronically route loan documents to the customer or customers to be electronically signed. So again, they can get that loan, that deal closed right in the moment while they're at the customer's house, and get them the product or service that they really need. So I look at it as our online system is really part of our value-added service. It gives our dealers all the tools they need, and the expectation is they use it for 100% of their applications. It will really give them a great experience, as well as the customer will feel good about the experience as well.
Yeah, and I think just a level of clarity
Yeah,
it provides where you are. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, just to add on to that, looking from the sales side, I still remember, but way back when I was on the sales end of things, I remember one of my mentors told me that when you're filling out an application, you're actually telling a story that sells that application to the finance company. And so when you're looking at those applications, it's important to put everything in there because you're telling a story that this customer has the ability to repay the loan. So that's one thing. The online application, it depends on how many times you want to go back and see a customer. If something's filled out incorrectly, then you got to go back and see the customer. Well, there's a danger or a concern about that, because every time you have to go back to a customer, there is a potential for buyer's remorse to get in. So what happens with the online system is it kind of prevents people from making mistakes, because all those particular areas have to be filled out in order to submit them and so forth. So there's a lot of, and plus the cost, if you're using paper and there's a mistake, you got to drive all the way back out there, have the docs redone, have the customer sign them, and there's a cost involved with that, not to mention the salesperson's time doing that. So the online system there's multiple reasons why it's very effective from a cost savings, not to mention having to touch that customer multiple times can be an issue.
Yeah, I think the idea of just having clarity of the process is so helpful for both sides, and just being able to see it right there and then, and clarity of when things get delivered, clarity of what things still need to be approved, what needs to be submitted, and not having to sort of guess or rely on back and forth emails, and back and forth, whether that be like calls too, where things can just be lost in communication, and you could just see it all right there and get it delivered in real time. I mean, doesn't
And
get any better than that.
And the
Yeah.
thing is if people are concerned about that, we do have a online training system, and if they contact our concierge department, they can help them through that. Either it's initial training or ongoing training. It's pretty simple, and but our concierge group is there to help train everybody on how to properly handle that system. And like I said, we just created a whole online training system they can play around with. That's not actually real, but they can practice on it as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So cool. And then I was thinking about the approval process here. So when we look at the underwriting, is it all auto decision, or do you actually have underwriters look at every application? And if you can go into detail here, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, great question, Josh. At TIC, we really have the best of both worlds. We leverage technology to decision about 50% of the loan applications that we receive. And then we also have a very experienced team of underwriters on staff to review applications that are not auto decision. So we can do it both ways. We also provide a second look review when an application or something changes. So the loan structure changes, or the fees change, or something on the application income might change, things like that gets maybe their DTI at a more acceptable level, or their PTI at an acceptable level. Again, we use a common sense approach of lending, so we look for every opportunity to approve a customer that we can. In addition to our experienced underwriting team, Mike touched on this, we also have a concierge service team that works with our dealers. So Mike talked about training, but they also help with questions around, different credit programs, different pricing, documentation, approvals, and any other questions that the dealer may have. And that really sets us apart from our competition. That team does a terrific job. Then we also have a customer care team that does the same for our customers. So really, here we have that automated system that allows us to give, some approvals in seconds. But when there's something that we need to look a little bit deeper at or make some verifications, we have underwriters that can do that as well. So really, it's all about, getting the highest approvals possible and leveraging technology when it's appropriate. So we have the luxury of providing both here at TIC.
Very cool. And I know we covered a lot here today in this wonderful chat. I wanted to make sure if there were any final thoughts that you wanted to provide, whether on how you work with dealers, how your onboarding works, or anything else that you feel like you would like to add here before we go.
Well, Mike touched on, mentioned onboarding. Our concierge team does a great job getting our dealers, once they're approved and ready to roll, they'll spend time going through applications and how do you submit an application? How do you submit documents? How do you get funded? So I think we have a very robust team that takes the dealer from A to Z, from the initial application that the sales team works with to get him all the way to the end when they submit their first application and get that first deal approved and that first deal funded. So really proud of the team that we have that does that. Also, as I mentioned earlier, our technology and our service levels are outstanding. So it's all about building those relationships with our dealers, building those relationships with our customers, and really giving the best customer experience that we possibly can.
Awesome, Paul. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out and ask for help, because what help we're looking for is it's just kind of based on 40 years of experience. But every dealer, it doesn't matter if you're being evaluated by Time Investment Company or any of our competition, the two areas they're going to look at is obviously approval percentage, but most important is what is the delinquency, how is the portfolio performing, and what is the charge-off rate. And those are two key areas. So if someone is submitting contracts and their delinquency goes up, everybody's going to reprice. They're going to be priced based on the performance of the receivable. So the areas that can really help us, because just like sales is an art, there is a certain art to people to really present and close a sale. It's the same thing for collection. There is an art to it. It's the ability to communicate and sell the customer on making their payment. It's not just calling up and saying, "Hey, Josh, you missed your payment last month. When do you plan on sending it?" There is a certain art to it. We have a lot of experienced people in collections. Where we need help is the application, because sometimes we're getting applications with only one phone number on it. Sometimes the employment is like vague. We really could use more information, such as multiple phone numbers, maybe a couple relatives or other people that we can contact in case the phone number is disconnected, we're no longer in use, or they're not answering it. It really helps us, because if we can do skip tracing or multiple different media, that's extremely helpful in getting people to understand the importance of making their payments. So even on that application, adding on references, adding a phone number for work, adding both spouses or both partners or both people on the application, their phone numbers is really, really very extremely helpful, so that if it does account, at least we have multiple area call. And yes, right now in this business cycle, delinquency is increasing. We need to be able to communicate with those customers in a gentle way and trying to help them figure a way to solve the problems. But that would be super helpful. We can get that from an application standpoint as well. So that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. It really takes the application from A to Z, right? Getting all that information on the front end helps with underwriting, but also helps with servicing that customer as well through the whole life cycle of the loan. So yeah, terrific.
Well, Mike and Paul, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your knowledge with the audience that we have. And of course, thank you to everybody who joined us today as well. And if you have any questions for anybody who joined us, make sure to go ahead and comment below this video, and we'll be sure to get back to you. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you'll see a number of videos where we talk about time investment and how to provide proper financing. And with that said, really excited to see you and many of the people, whether you be joining us as someone here today in this chat or someone from the audience on our future videos as well. And excited to do just that, and we'll rock and roll from here.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Thank you, Josh.
Appreciate it.